Welcome to the Greenwich Means Business podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Greenwich Means Business podcast. I am your host, Natalie. Today we will be talking about clearing with a very special guest.
So hello, my name is Agneta. I'm a Recruitment Officer with the UK Student Recruitment Team at the University of Greenwich.
Fantastic. So Agneta, I want you to explain to me clearing as if I'm 5 years old. I've never heard of it before. Please, take the floor.
Okay, so clearing is a way for universities to fill the places that they haven't been filled. And clearing is for those people who have applied via main cycle, so before the 30th of June. And they don't have any offers, so they're not holding any offers. It's also for those who had an offer, but they decided that actually they want to go somewhere else. It's for those people who also applied, but then for a specific course, let's say psychology, but decided that actually they want to do business management, for example. So that's what clearing is, and that's what it's for.
So it really gives like the choice to like the student in a way, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Agneta, how would you apply through clearing? Talk me step by step. How does it work?
Okay, yeah. So to apply for clearing, first thing that you need is an active UCAS application. Okay, so you would create a UCAS account, fill out all the details, pay for it and submit it. Okay, once you've got a active UCAS account, it takes about 24 hours for it to activate. So sometimes during clearing, we get a call, it'd be like, oh, I applied, I've just made an application an hour ago, and we're like, we can't see it. So you need to wait about 24 hours for the account to activate. Okay, once you've got an account, you can search on the UCAS search tool what vacancies are available. You can just call the university directly and ask whether the course that you want to apply for is available. Okay, as I said, then we would ask you to confirm your grades, and based on the course you're applying for, there might be an interview involved, there may be a portfolio, or if it's very straightforward, we give you an offer then and there if you meet the requirements. And if you want to accept the offer, you will then add us as a clearing choice on UCAS. And then it takes 24 to 48 hours for that to appear on your UCAS application. But that's step by step.
In terms of like the preparation, like talk me through like an average results day.
Ooh. So that is, I'd say it's busy for us as a staff. It can be quite stressful for applicants. It can have different outcomes. So whether, it can be good if if you got the grades that you wanted. It can be a little bit stressful if you haven't got the grades that you wanted, and didn't get into your first choice. You can, I guess it could be a bit of both. Quite emotional for some people as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I remember my results day. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't want to open my results until I got home. It was crazy. Yeah, and then I opened them and
I was happy, guys. The key, right?
Yes, no, definitely, yeah, of course. So you call up the university that you're interested in, right?
Yeah. So this is, I can sort of like walk you through
Please,
happens when with like a typical clearing call and what you do. So normally you would call the university and inquire about the vacancies that they've got. I guess the first thing that you would do is you would search on UCAS the vacancies that are available, and then you would call up the university to check whether you actually meet the grades and whether the course that you want to apply for is still available. If the course is still available and you meet the grades, it can be very straightforward. You've got an active UCAS account. And it's one of the courses where you don't have to attend an interview or you don't have to have a portfolio ready. It can be very straightforward. You meet the grades, we make you an offer then and there, and then you would, if you want to accept that offer, you will need to add the clearing choice on your UCAS application, and it takes about 24 to 48 hours for that to appear on your UCAS account.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It can be slightly trickier if it is, I guess not trickier, but it can be slightly longer if it's one of those courses that requires you to attend an interview. So, for example, nursing courses or like architecture courses.
Yeah.
Because we cannot make a decision then and there. Or there are, for instance, some discrepancies with your grades, or there are certain cases where we may need to refer your application to the faculty, so then it can take slightly longer because then your application will have to be reviewed by the faculty staff and then they will make decision.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
You know, I really love to talk to you about the misconceptions of clearing, because I will say from my point of view personally, when I was in college and I was going on to university, there was just like this misconception that the last thing you want to do is get into clearing. But it just seems from what you're saying that in reality, it's the sort of thing where you can really just make up your own mind and it almost gives the power back to you. So can you talk to me a little bit about the misconceptions about clearing?
Yeah, of course. I think you're right. There are quite a few misconceptions when it comes to clearing. And quite a few myths, I guess, surrounding clearing that we can like debunk.
Let's debunk them.
So I guess the first thing is that clearing is stressful. So I think that's one of like the most common myths, I'd say. And whilst, you know, it can be stressful, I of course want to acknowledge that, you know, everyone's different and everyone's got like a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
But say you've got your grades, the course that you want to apply for is available. It can be very sort of straightforward, seamless process.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing, another sort of myth that's there is like, I guess there are sort of like negative connotations attached to clearing or something like that. That, for instance, if you're applying through clearing, that means you're failed, which is definitely not true.
Not the case.
I would say clearing is more like for not only for those students who didn't get the grades that they wanted. Clearing is also for those students who changed their mind. You know, so those who decided on like taking a different path, let's just say. And I think especially over the past years, like that number of students who just changed their mind has increased. That number of students have increased significantly, and I think a lot of people who even got better grades than they expected, they decide to actually, you know what, I want to go through clearing and apply for a different course or like for a different university.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think definitely clearing is, I don't see clearing as a negative thing, but like rather quite positive way of applying to university and just sort of, I guess, taking a different path. You know?
Of course, yeah, and there's also lots of students, I suppose, that actually get better grades than they're expected.
Yeah.
And they want to aim for higher universities.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's true. And I think one more thing is that when it comes to clearing is that a lot of students who didn't apply via main cycle, so who applied after the 30th of June, they just go straight for clearing. Like maybe they were like waiting until June and decided that, oh, you know what, actually I want to go to university, and then they would use clearing as well. So,
Last minute.
Last minute.
But it happens to some of us, what can we say? Okay, let's go back now to talking about what actually happens on the day. So my question is obviously, you know, on the other, so let's pretend, so obviously you're on one side of the line, I'm on the other side of the line. You know, like what documents do you need to have ready on you to be able to give all the answers straight away and make the process seamless, like you said?
Okay, that's a great question. So normally, let's say you're an applicant, you would call up the university. What our call operators will normally ask you is obviously to confirm that the person they are talking to, they're you basically. Yeah. So they would ask for you to like confirm your UCAS applicant ID, your full name, date of birth, and you know your email, things like that. Then I'd say definitely have your UCAS details ready. As far as
which are found on the website, right?
Yes, you will have your UCAS applicant ID.
Okay.
You can also make sure that you check your UCAS emails and things like
of
that.
Course.
So I'd say that, and then definitely have your grades Okay, because we would ask you to confirm the grades that you've got, just to check whether you are actually eligible for the course that you want to apply for. We will inquire about your experience, work experience, if that's applicable. Again, not all courses will require that. So, yeah, and I guess notepad and a pen.
Okay, so you don't need your passport or anything like that? No, wow.
No.
So it is very straightforward.
It is very straightforward.
That's great. If you want to prepare for the day before results day, what would you do to prepare?
Okay. So I think we understand that the results, they can be quite stressful. And I think the most important thing to do is obviously not panic, but, think about both situations. What will happen if you get the grades that you wanted, and what will happen if you don't get the grades that you wanted. I would say perhaps not a day before, but a week before or so, or 2 weeks before, make sure that you do your research, that in case you don't get the grades that you wanted, there's a plan B. So whether you want to apply for a different course, or whether you want to apply to a different university, do a little bit of research about that. And I think the day before, as I said, relax. Try not to think too much about it.
Yeah.
Think about maybe when it comes to your results, how do you want to get your results? How do you want to find out? Whether you want to find out online, whether you want to pick them up from school. Do you want to be on your own when you open the results?
Do you want your parents to be there?
Yeah. Do you want some support? Things like that. And just think about that. And then I think on the results day as well, I think it's important to just be rational about the situation. So there's always, it's not like you're without an option. There's always an option there for you. So whether it's a different course, whether it's you want to go into clearing, whether you go into your firm choice, whether you go into your insurance choice, so there's something there for you. And I think it's also important that you don't compare yourself to anybody else, or don't compare your results to somebody else's. Yeah. And maybe stay off social media for a bit.
Comparison is the biggest killer.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah. And what would you do if you're away for that time? So if you're away, if you're living your best life in Portugal on a beach, when results day comes around, what are you going to do? What happens then?
It's a good question. So what I'd say, if you are away, you probably need to make some arrangements in terms of who will get your results for you. Yeah. You would have to have a nominated person. It's very, very important that you also let the school know of who that person will be, that you put that on UCAS as well, when you're making the UCAS application, that you have a nominated person, because we can't discuss your application with anybody else other than you. Or the nominated person. So
just to give you an example, so let's say I was in this, let's just say I was on this beach in Portugal, and let's say my mom was back in the UK, and she picked up my results for me. Would she be able to just send me a photo, and I would be able to contact UCAS from Portugal and make that phone call?
If she is your nominated person, she would be able to do that on your behalf. So only you and your nominated person that can discuss the application with us. If, however, say you don't put your mom as your nominated person, you don't have a nominated person, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to discuss your application with them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What support services does Greenwich offer for students that are going for clearing?
Okay, so I'd say there are quite a few. First things first, that we normally around clearing time, we run events. It's clearing, clearing-based events.
Really?
So
I didn't know that.
we'd have what we had last year was an in-person event, so people could just come in and make clearing applications, or just talk to us about clearing. So I think I don't know what's going to happen this year, but we normally have some sort of event going on, and I'd say keep an eye out on the upcoming events and check our clearing page on the University of Greenwich website. As I said, I think before, there are some campus tours that may be running during that time. So it's a great opportunity for you to come and see what the campus is like.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's also priority clearing, so which is a service that we provide. So you normally sign up on the university's page and provide some details like your phone number, when are you expecting your grades, whether you've already got your grades. And on the results day, when you get your grades, like our team would normally call you up and be like, okay, you're still interested in applying through clearing, and they walk you through the clearing application. Or if you got like your grades already, they'll call you earlier once like the clearance open. So you can sign up for that, and also you'll have access to the priority clearing line. So that would allow you to skip the queue on the results day.
That sounds amazing, you know? Like, it's like flying, but instead of that priority, we're doing priority clearing.
Exactly, and
That's
also
really
you can definitely give us a call on our clearing hotline, and one of our advisors will be able to answer any queries that you may have during clearing.
Wow, that's really great. Okay, we're coming to an end now, but to summarize, I want you to give me 3 top tips that you would give someone who is going through clearing or who is planning to go through clearing.
Okay, so 3 top tips. I'd say first thing is definitely do your research and consider like different options that are there for you. Okay. Second tip is gather all the information that you need, so you don't need to search for it when you're on a call, you already have that there. And the final tip, I guess, is just try to relax and get some sleep the night before.
I recommend
you're
sleeping.
Like rested and don't think too much about it. As I said, there's always like a plan B or plan C.
I always say inhale, exhale. There you go. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Agneta, for joining us today. This was the Greenwich Means Business podcast about clearing, and we highly recommend that you share this podcast with all friends and family if you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment on what you would like to see us do a podcast on next. I was your host, Natalie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Subscribe to never miss an episode.